Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you for coming back to listen to Sara's War. We're wrapping things up here, or getting close to it anyway. Today we are on Chapter 53. Here we go. Chapter 53, Man Overboard. I raced down a dirt path lined with trees. The same path Jack and I had taken on our first walk together. Daylight will last a couple more hours. I should be able to make it to the submarine base before dusk. I don't know if I can run the whole way, especially with Lexi's fancy gun in one hand. But I'm certainly going to try, at least until I get to the spare vehicles Jack showed me. Mitch let me borrow the key to his Hummer. He made me promise not to tell him any plans I had, since he didn't want to have to cover for me. I don't blame him. I wouldn't have been able to tell him anything anyway. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I certainly can't run as fast with this lumpy backpack on. I laugh out loud when I remember Peggy's face when she saw me loading it up with emergency medical supplies. She didn't even seem to notice. She just squealed and squeezed me tight, telling me how good it was to see me and how sorry she was that I got kicked out of Bridgetown because of my unfortunate trauma. And without a single breath for transition, she went right on spouting out how good things were with her darling Henry. She called me sweetie at least 5 times during her rambling. Each time I called her out on it, and each time she said, "Oh, sorry, dear," forgetting that dear was pretty much the same thing. The great thing about it, though, is she didn't even ask what I was doing, why I was doing it, or where I was going. I come to a halt as I recognize the spot where Jack led me off the path. I jog through the trees and around the familiar gigantic boulder to the long line of army vehicles. I stop and smile at my small victory and take a moment to catch my breath. Water. I need water. I did pack some, but not for me. I should have thought about that. I walk down to the 6th vehicle in line, where Mitch said his Hummer would be. And sure enough, his key works on my first try. I lug my backpack and gun onto the seat beside me. I pull out my phone, where I see I've made 13 unanswered calls to Jack, and 27 text messages not delivered. I let out a tremendous sigh as I flip on the ignition. The engine roars to life. I cannot believe how different it is to drive this massive thing, especially once I reach sand on the shore. Yikes. But the tires are huge and do just fine. I park in the exact spot Jack parked when he took me here, but I face the truck backwards so I can see the ocean. I pull out some binoculars from the small pocket of my backpack. A twinge of guilt trickles through my chest when I remember that all I had to do was give a particular soldier in the cafeteria my best smile, and he gladly let me borrow them. I sling my backpack over my shoulder and jump down from the vehicle. My big army boots sink into the sand. I gaze out at the ocean. Dusk is fast approaching, and all is silent except the crashing waves of the ocean along the shore. I close my eyes and inhale slowly through my nose, focusing on the comforting sound and breathing in the salty air. It helps steady my adrenaline just a bit. I hear a helicopter looming in the distance. I open my eyes and see 3 of them hovering in the sky, and a plethora of soldiers parachuting out. Some will land on the shore and others in the water. I peer through my binoculars, searching for a familiar face. You're still full of surprises, I see. I gasp and whirl around. There stands Nate, dripping wet, hefting his backpack and rolling up his parachute. His presence jolts so many questions in me, but I'm distracted by the plethora of other soldiers I see walking on the beach. How did they come out of nowhere? Ah, the doctor's speechless. It's about time I did that to her. He flashes me his trademark smirk. Nate, I stutter. What's going on? Why are all the troops here? Nate grabs my shaking hands. What are you doing here, Sara? You need to leave. This place is so not safe. I shake my head, trying to clear it. I need to tell Jack something. Nate shoots me a look of dismay. Now? He's a little busy, Sara, and you should be busy hightailing it out of here. I shake my head with vigor. I can't. Gibbs, a male soldier cries in hushed tones a few feet away. Get a move on. Nate puts one hand on my shoulder. At least hide, Sara. He gives me a swift look over. You're not even wearing protection. Gibbs! The soldier spits. Nate leans closer to me. You better not be the next friend I lose tonight, he whispers fiercely, then jogs away in the caboose of the other troops. You too, I whisper into the wind. Well, that encounter did nothing to calm my nerves. I glance around at the open space of the shoreline that runs for miles. There is no place to hide. Loud thunder claps the sky, thunder that sounds strangely like gunshots. Terror grips my chest. I dive in the sand and crawl under the Hummer, the only Hummer on the beach. I sink lower with the devastating revelation that I just might have made the biggest mistake of my life by coming here. What was I thinking? There's no way I'm going to find Jack, especially since I might get killed first. Then I realize I left my only means of defense in the cab. I scoot out from my not-so-clever hideout and slide out my KAC-2, along with my small anaconda, and secure it in my holster. I slide under the truck again. I don't know why I think a gun is going to help me. My entire body is shaking so much there's no way I can hold it correctly, let alone shoot it, even if I did remember anything Lexi taught me in my one and only shooting lesson. More gunshots fire in the distance. My entire body convulses so much I think I might hurl. This is definitely not what I was made to do in life. If I even have a life after tonight. How does anyone handle this? Okay, I've handled moments of crisis before. How did I do it then? I lean up on my elbows and force myself to take deep breaths. Well, it was different because I knew if I didn't focus, someone might die. Aha! That's what I need to do. Focus on saving lives, not killing them. Of course! That's what the army does. They save and protect their people and their country. My pounding heart now changes to a different rhythm of courage. The terror is definitely still there, but at least that is not what will kill me tonight. I wipe off my binoculars, which took a sand bath when I first dove underneath the Hummer. I peer through them again. The parachutes are all gone. The troops are all gone. What? How did they manage to hide on the beach? Then I spot dozens of lifeboats paddling away from shore into deeper water. I can't tell from where I am if they are soldiers or Navy seamen, since their combat uniforms are so similar. I take a look at the long pier some distance away, where there are without a doubt lots of people standing. I zoom in to get a better look. Navy SEALs and Army soldiers. I move my lenses some more, but no one looks familiar. Then I hear voices coming down the shoreline. I stifle a gasp and lie as still as possible. What do you mean you don't know where he is? He can't be that hard to find. He's like 12 feet tall. I think he suspects something. How would he know anything? Says the gruff voice. Because he's Haskins. I don't know how he figures stuff out. He just does. They're passing me now. If they look in the right direction, they'll definitely see me under this large thing. But fortunately, they both seem quite involved in their conversation. Why aren't they worried about getting shot? Well, he doesn't suspect me. Maybe I can get him on the sub. I bite my lip to keep in my hysterics. The voices leave my hearing range, but I could have sworn one of them said, "We might have to ambush him." I bite my lip harder, and before I know it, blood drips down my chin. I wipe it off with the back of my hand. Well, at least I have a goal now. Keep Jack off any sort of submarine. I glance out at the troops on their lifeboats. Without another thought, I grip my gun and sprint to the docks. With complete nonchalance, of course. I spot a small silver rowboat with Lucy etched into the side. "Remember me?" I say to the boat as I leap in and untie her from the dock. I follow the other soldiers with about half the speed. How does everyone row so fast in this wind? I see a compartment of the submarine open. The troops and seamen load their lifeboats into it. After rowing a few more strenuous rounds, I notice the crowd is either piling into the submarine or jumping off the outer hull of the sub and onto the pier. I'm happy to see the sub proudly flies the American flag, alongside the U.S. Navy flag. But I'm still relieved that no one as tall as Jack has climbed in. I think. My arms throb with exhaustion when I reach the massive pier. The water's surface is about 6 feet below the dock. I secure Lucy's rope around a thick leg of the pier, underneath the wooden planks, so no one can see me. Nate's right. It's not a good idea to be here without any protective armor, especially considering the fact that I'm not supposed to be here at all. Eventually, the ocean is clear of all people. The chatter on the dock above me is soft, and the mood so intense it's almost stifling. An achingly familiar voice cuts through all the others. "The shots were simply an exercise to see how you would react," says Jack. "And did we react to your expectations, sir?" says a deep voice I don't recognize. "So far," says Jack, "although I would like these men to speak with Captain Barnett before we proceed." "Can we do that now, Captain?" says the man a little louder. "Whenever the colonel gives the word." My head jolts up at the sound of Chris's velvet voice. He's standing alone on the outer hull of the sub, facing the men speaking above me on the pier. He meets my eyes, then looks up at the men on the dock, giving no indication whatsoever that he saw me. "Well, Colonel, this fine submarine here would seem like the perfect place for this. What do you say? Shall we get out of this wind?" I don't hear Jack's response as I'm too busy waving my arms at Chris. He glances down at me without changing his expression. "Don't let him get on the sub," I mouth, with as much exaggeration as possible. "They will kill him." Chris's eyes widen just a bit. Then he shakes his head ever so slightly at me and looks back at the men, standing still and erect. I wave my arms with more vigor this time. Chris meets my eyes again, his face unmoving. "I talked to Ame," I mouth. "The Navy is working with the Daggered Rose." Chris's eyes bulge. Then he quickly smooths them out. "What do you think, Captain?" says Jack. "I think we should save it for later," says Chris. Ah, something in Jack's tone shifts. The captain stares at him as if he's communicating something telepathically. "What? Later? Why later?" says the man. "The captain and I have other business to attend to on the beach," says Jack. "But sir, you just said—" "I know what I said, but you need to listen to what I'm saying now. I need to speak with Captain Barnett. We'll reconvene later. Captain, I wish for you to follow me." "Yes, sir." Right as Chris moves to leap onto the dock, I hear a gunshot fire above me. I jump and gasp. Then Chris collapses into the water. I slap a hand over my mouth to hold in my scream. Gruff grunts and shouting and cursing spike the air. Jack's voice is loudest of all. By the clamping of scattered feet and slamming thumps on the dock, I can tell a hands-on brawl has begun. Then another man falls into the water with a gigantic splash. I gasp again. Bullets fire into the water, and the man ducks under the surface. I glance over to find Chris. I don't see him, but I do see blood floating to the surface, causing my own blood to freeze. My first thought is to untie Lucy and bring her to him, but I can't risk being seen. I better swim underwater. I open my mouth to fill my lungs before stepping off the boat, just as the third man dives in. This time my scream shoots out like a firecracker, but there's so many gunshots above me I doubt anyone noticed. Just when my heart almost leaps out of my throat, I see the man resurface with Chris over his shoulder. I stand and wave my arms with huge movements to get his attention. Fortunately, he sees my half-jumping jacks and swims over to me with impressive strength and speed. The rescuer heaves Chris onto the rowboat as I hold it steady. "Nate," I murmur, surprised to see his face in front of me. "Are you all right?" "Sara?" "Yes, I'm fine," he says, shivering a bit from the cold water. "Just take care of him and stay out of sight." "You take care too," I tell him. Nate nods, sinks underwater, then swims away. I do my best to ignore the continuing commotion above me as I put my face close to Chris's mouth and nose. Nothing. "Come on, Captain, breathe." I tilt his head and open his lips and blow air through his mouth. 3 more tries and Chris throws up a bucket load of water. "Chris!" I cry. I turn him on his side and slap him on the back. He gasps and heaves 1 more time, but at least he's breathing. Good, I say. "You just breathe in and out. I'll take care of the rest." Chris's response is nothing but pants. Just then, the second man who had been thrown overboard appears at the boat's side. "Wanna go for a swim, little lady?" he spits as he moves to tip the boat over. I shift to hold it in place, and Chris kicks both his legs out to the opposite side with a grunt of pain. I rip out my anaconda and point it at the traitorous Navy SEAL. I see you lost your gun, I tell him. Actually, I didn't see him lose it. I just figured since he hadn't shot me yet. You can leave me alone so I can help the captain, or I can shoot you. Your choice. All my insides are shaking, but I hold the gun steady. The SEAL hesitates. Aren't we friends, Jake? Chris rasps. You belong to the wrong side, Chris, Jake says, still staring at me and my gun. Let's agree to disagree on that, says Chris. Look at all the blood he's already lost, I say. Fine, Jake says. You're not the one we want anyway, Chris. We want your best friend. Please, Jake, whispers Chris, closing his eyes. Without another word, Jake wraps his body around a leg of the pier and climbs until he can reach the edge of the dock. He hoists himself up with one great pull-up, his clothes and boots dribbling a small waterfall behind him. I push my hands down on Chris's chest. Even with his protective vest, the gunshot was too close, and consequently the bullet is too deep to remove right now. Tears spill over my cheeks when I see how close it is to his heart. Everyone gets taken at different times, Sara, Chris says. I shake my head with vigor. You're not going to die. I pull out scrolls of gauze from my backpack and wrap it round and round his chest and back. Then I put as much pressure as I can over the wound. He soaks up the bandaging quickly, so I wrap a couple more rounds of gauze and apply more pressure. Chris and I are silent through it all. He gives me no indication that he's in pain, but I know that he is. You need to go find Jack, Chris says. He's smart and strong, but he's extremely outnumbered. Tears spill over my cheeks again. I will, but not until I know you'll be okay. The bleeding doesn't soak through this time, but I put pressure on it for a little longer. Oh, how I wish Randy were here to help me. I know he would come running the second I called him. Your bleeding has stopped, I say, but I need to get you to safety. Land won't be safer, Sara. They'll see us, and I'm not in a position to protect you right now. I'm here to protect you, I whisper fiercely. Chris smiles. And you're doing a great job. But just leave me here. I'll be fine. Not a chance. I pick up the paddles and row under the pier as quietly and quickly as possible. Chris smiles upward. Now I see the stubbornness Jack was talking about. Yeah, well, I have no response to that, so I just keep rowing. I don't hear them on the dock anymore, I say. Where do you think they went? There's plenty of people on the dock, Sara. It takes me a minute to realize what he means by that. I choke back my hysterics. Are you the one who got me out of the water? No, that was Nate. He jumped in after you, then helped me get you on the boat. Chris nods. I always knew he was a good guy. He is, I say, straining to row against the wind. It's definitely harder with two of us in here, but eventually I make it to land and drag the boat onto the shore. Dusk is rapidly darkening now, and I can't see who's lying on the dock. I refuse to think the worst. Can you walk? I ask Chris. Yes. He groans in pain when he sits up, grasping his chest, but he manages to get out of the boat and to his feet. I put my arm around his waist to steady him, and he puts his arm around me as I lead him to Mitch's Hummer. I know it's not ideal, I tell him, as I help him inside the truck. But it's as secure as we're going to get. Definitely better than leaving you on the ocean or in the middle of this open beach somewhere. Chris groans as he lies down across the seats. I climb in too and open my backpack. I slap on some clean gloves, taking out my bag of liquid morphine and fill up my syringe. This will help with the pain, I tell him. I wipe a spot under his elbow clean and prick it with a needle. I was too worried about your bleeding and us getting caught to give it to you earlier. That's just fine, says Chris. I'll take it when I can get it. You've now done everything you possibly can for me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I offer him a sad smile. I wish I could do more, but you're welcome. Chris returns the sad smile. Where do you think Jack is now? I ask. Chris swallows. Since they didn't get him on a sub, my best guess is they took him to the Navy hideout. Unless he's on the plank. My heart hammers in my chest. Where's the hideout? It's about 300 yards south of the pier. Look for a hatch. It's underground. I nod as I wipe down my tools. I'm sorry I can't come with you, says Chris. Don't be sorry, I say, as I stuff my tools in my backpack. You really are brave, Sara. I smile at him. You are too. But don't leave the truck, okay? You don't want to make your wound worse. Chris holds my gaze but says nothing. I hope that doesn't mean he has any crazy ideas looming. I pull out a water bottle from my backpack and hand it to him. I'll only take this if you drink some first. I know how much you ran to get here, and you've got a lot of running ahead. I pry open the lid and take a few long swigs, then hand the bottle back to him and zip up my pack. Hang in there, I say. I'll see you later. I hop out of the truck and move to shut the door. Hey, Sara? I pause and look at him. You might want to bring your KAC too. You left it in the rowboat. Oh, right, I say, shaking my head. I'll grab it on the way. And, he hesitates, if I don't make it, tell Lexi. You're going to make it, Chris, I cut in, unless you do something to make it worse. So like I said, don't get out of the truck. Someone might find me. I cringe hard, wishing he hadn't brought that to my attention. I will come back and drive you to the hospital where I can get the bullet out. Tell Lexi I love her, he croaks. I grimace and try to fight back the tears, but I can't. I nod and grab his hand and squeeze it. You're a hero, Chris. You too, he says, squeezing my hand in return. I slam the door and run down the sandy beach through the darkness. And that concludes Chapter 53. Dun dun dun! If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.